And we're live. Sarshar Hosseinnia, aka Mr. Steal Your Girl. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. It's a pleasure to see you, my friend. I think 6 or 7 years since I last saw you, so I'm glad we're here.
Of course, me too. And where we're getting you from today? Where you tuning in from?
Surprisingly sunny Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
Oh, nice. Quite the mouthful. And what's going on there in sunny Vancouver, British Columbia? Are you working now, or are you just
No,
visiting between trips? What's your status at the minute?
it's funny. We were talking off camera about, you had sort of an epiphany of to come back home type thing. It's the total opposite for me. I'm sort of getting the travel bug again. I'm going to Coachella next week. So I'm going to be in the desert, and I've been applying to work in the Caribbean, in Latin America again. I miss it a lot. I miss the way of life there. Um, I miss how you could be spontaneous. There was a magic to it. So I missed all that, you don't get here. And at the same time, 8 months out of the year, maybe more, it's freezing cold here and it pisses down. So I've had enough of it.
All right, positive attitude. Thanks for that. So, like, how long have you called Vancouver home for? How long have you been there in total? Obviously, we'll get on to the finer details later, but yeah, how long have you been there?
Yeah, 21 years. I moved here in 2003 or four. Minus, a little bit of time living in Ecuador, in Quito, Ecuador, a little bit of time studying in Guadalajara in Mexico. Aside from that, yeah, roughly 20 years. I think I've lived here longer than I lived in England.
Wow, quite the
Yeah.
feat. Well, I was going to get on to that later, but yeah, so given that, you've been there all your adult life.
Mhm.
What about your identity? What would you resonate more with? Would you feel more Canadian, British, or again, something we'll talk about later, your mixed heritage? You have a third heritage or an origin. What would you feel like? What do you identify as, so to speak?
Yeah, Sunderland will always be my home. It'll always be my team. I know you hate that, but
You've suffered, my friend. You have suffered. I see this.
I have. I have. I was watching the game in a pub, the playoff final, with some, local Sunderland fans here in Vancouver, and when Tommy Watson scored the goal to send us up, man, there was just one single tear that just came down, and it was like all this pain had been lifted. So I obviously still have a huge affinity for Sunderland, but oddly enough, when I'm in a plane or a train and I come back to Vancouver, it feels like home.
So you're of the Sunderland, Golf, Madrid kind of mindset then. It's
Yeah,
an inside joke for anybody who knows football.
Gareth Bale, yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, do you feel more Canadian, or because of that kind of your roots came from the UK, do you still feel very entrenched in the British, not so much culture, but identity?
Yeah,
Is that something that always draw you in?
well, I'm English. I'm English. I'm proud to be English. I'm proud to have a Persian heritage as well. My dad's Persian. Um, so very, very proud. At the same time, I'm the only person in my family that's Canadian. I'm the only person with a Canadian passport. So I'm privileged and proud that I'm the only one. Um, so yeah, you know, uh, eh, both. If I can answer the question and say I'm proud to.
Yeah, I'm not trying to trip you up there. There's no right or wrong answer. So you feel not torn, but you feel like you've taken the best of both worlds.
I just, when you say where do you want to go next, I wouldn't say England would be on the bucket list. My mom was talking about going to England next month and Spain, and I said I'd come to Spain, but I don't know. Aside from maybe going to a football game, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't have a reason to go to England, and it sounds horrible. Um, you know, maybe this would resonate with you. I don't know. But I haven't been back to England in 20 years.
Oh, really? Since you left? Or not long after?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I haven't, as you know, I don't like flying.
I did not know
I know
that.
this is not helping on a travel, but I don't like to fly. So it's, if England was next door, maybe I would have been back a few times.
So yeah, maybe the distance has kept you a little bit away.
Yeah.
Do you have much family still in the UK or not?
I don't really have much family anywhere. A lot of people have passed on, friends, family in Iran and in England. So, I'm close with my parents here. My brother lives here as well. My sister uh, lives about an hour away. That's really it. Aside from that, I've got cousins in Dallas, Texas. They're American. They've been there for 20 years as well. Um, I do have an auntie and uncle in Switzerland as well. I think in Geneva. Aside from that, um, an auntie and a cousin in Newcastle and an uncle in Newcastle, but I mean, we haven't talked in over a decade.
So you've kept your circle relatively small then, and luckily
Yeah.
the ones in that circle are within arm's reach then.
Yeah, I would say I'm probably tighter with my cousins in Dallas, Texas, and obviously the power of Instagram helps because we can talk to each other on a daily basis when we need to. But again, I feel like I've um, missed out on parts of their lives as well. Both my cousins have kids now, and I've never met the kids once, so you know, uh, maybe I'll start feeling that that guilt of not doing enough as
That
well.
yearning. Well, at least if you do have to go to Texas, it's a lot nicer than Sunderland because Sunderland's a shithole. Anyway, you and I actually met up, as you said, by chance about 8 years ago, when I was definitely
Yeah.
not on a visa run from the US. So that's shocking to think that was 8 years ago. Bearing in mind it feels like about two. You taught me to use
Yeah.
bear spray, which was lovely. So thanks for that. Yeah, so that was the last time we saw each other. I can't believe it's so long ago.
But I think the world changed after the pandemic, and it's felt a bit odd since then. Um, it was a different world, obviously, before then, and I think it was a lot nicer of a world as well.
Now we have the New World Order. Great times. All right, so yeah, usually here I ask the guests to give a little bit of a summary about their life
Mhm.
so far, maybe like your highlights package. So if you wouldn't mind, could you tell me like the bullet points of your existence so far, please? You have 1 minute. Take it away.
Yes, I was born in Sunderland. I moved to Newcastle, the enemy, at a very young age. I had a chap called Guy Sadler. I think was my first friend in high
Oh,
school. Um,
lucky.
and sorry, in middle school, and then moved to Spain when I was very young, for about a year, I think it was. I don't remember, but I was very young. I lived in the Costa del Sol. Yeah, eventually moved to Vancouver, age 19. I've been here ever since, minus a stint in Ecuador and some travel in the US and Mexico.
Nice. That was under a minute. Most people waffle on for ages. So thank you very much for keeping it brief. So yeah, fantastic. Before we go any further, are there any interesting facts about yourself that you'd like to share with the world? So I know you have a penchant for peacocking somewhat. So what have you got for us?
Oh my God, you put me on the spot here. With regards to travel?
Take your time. Anything, an interesting fact that not many people might know by looking at you or knowing you. I've known you kind of for a long time, but
Yeah.
obviously there's a big stint off than on. So what
Mhm.
might I not know about you that might surprise me? Good or
I
bad?
don't.
You choose.
Yeah, I don't even think you might know about this one, but
You're
I
not
think
a
it was two.
woman, are you? You didn't do
No,
that thing yet. No, okay. I don't even know if I'm allowed to
2002.
ask these things nowadays.
No, 2002. Paul Gascoigne, the greatest footballer ever, was in Newcastle
Who
City
who
Centre.
who did he play for? Where did he make his name?
Newcastle, Tottenham, Rangers, Lazio, yeah, Middlesbrough, and he was with Jimmy Five Bellies in Granger Market. I was with my friend Alfie. We
Can
yelled
you
at him.
explain who? Can you explain who Jimmy Five Bellies is before we continue,
He was
please? Some people
Jimmy
might not know.
Jimmy Five Bellies Gardner was Paul Gascoigne's minder. He was the guy that was supposed to keep him on the straight and narrow, but did a very
He's
poor
like
job of it.
He was a jester to a jester, you could say, right?
Exactly, yeah. And so they were there. We were yelling, Gaza, Gaza. I met him a few times before. Really nice guy. He ran away. In my infinite drunken wisdom, me and my friend Alfie decided to chase after him. The greatest footballer, or the greatest British footballer ever, and here he is running away from me, from a teenager.
He was like the Timu Messi, if you like, for our generation. He really was something. But yeah, yeah,
It was,
he
it
was
matched
something. And did
up.
you catch him? Did you catch him at all? That might be a better interesting fact if you did.
No,
He
surprisingly, he
wasn't
still had
known
his
for his
weight.
speed. He wasn't even known
No,
for his speed. So I think you need to you need to sharpen up somewhere. All right, that was
that was,
that was lovely. So I didn't know that. So thanks for sharing that. So you're not a woman and you chased after Gaza. Perfect.
yeah.
Thanks for that. So a little bit about our friendship. It's actually a little bit different. You've already kind of explained it. Most
Uh-huh.
people I have on here are people I've met traveling. And you and we met, I think, 6 or 7 years old. So we
Mhm.
go way back. So without taking the mic off you for too long, you moved to Canada, right? So how was the move from Northeast England to West Coast of Canada at that age? Kind of a pivotal period in your life, when you just your first taste of
Yeah,
adulthood. How was that for you?
it was a coming of age time, and you know what? It was the hardest time of my life. It took me 3 years to integrate. Um, Believe it or not, even though it was summertime here, um, I didn't have any friends. I felt like the friends that I was with were being forced on me. Um, I was sort of getting immersed in the Persian community because maybe people don't know about Vancouver. It's a bit different from the rest of the world. There's a lot of Persians here. There's a lot of Indians. There's a lot of Chinese, Korean here as well. Probably more than there is Caucasians. So I didn't feel like I was ready to be immersed in those cultures. I was happy. I had a girlfriend. I had friends. Um, it took me 3 years being heavily depressed to get acclimatized. But I felt like when I came here, I couldn't go back to anything. So, very, very tough time for me. And eventually, I started to see the beauty in you know that this city has, that this country has, and also I enrolled in university a little bit later than you know uh, people at our time did. Usually people in England at the time would go to university at 18. I went at 24. Now it's the norm. I've got a mate enrolled in university. He's 31. He starts this September. So it's a
Good
different
on him.
time now. Yeah, but back then it was a bit challenging. I always felt like the old guy, even at 19, 20. But once I sort of got accustomed to things, I fell in love with it.
Nice. And you haven't looked back since, I guess.
No, like I said, this is home.
When you said before, sorry, you said something about not being able to go back. Did you mean back to the UK or what did you mean, just to clarify?
Yeah, yeah, no, there wasn't anything. I didn't have an abundance of family there, um, and I'd sort of, you're very young, you're 18, 19 years old, you go back somewhere on your own. I didn't feel like I knew I would be able to survive or, get by or on anything. So I just kept took the safe route and stayed here. Sounds a bit odd, but I definitely felt very insecure at the time that I felt if I was going to go back to England, I'd be homeless or something.
Well, it's maybe it's a little bit of that kind of push in the deep end. You have
Mm.
to. There's no safety net, right? So it was,
Yeah,
um, fit in or fuck off kind of thing without being too harsh.
yeah, exactly.
A touch of that, maybe.
Yeah,
Nice. And
100%.
sorry, I missed the bit between moving there and going to university. So what? There was like a 5 year gap. What did you do initially in that time?
I
Because they're like
worked. I,
formative years, semi-formative years, right? It's as an adult. What was your time spent on?
I worked a lot of cash in hand jobs because we didn't have you know,
Oh, nobody listening. Shh,
oh,
careful what you say. Oh, you've got a visa now, right? Okay, you're sweet.
well, yeah, no, I'm Canadian. No, at the time we didn't have the paperwork, mate. So I was doing things illegally, and it was very, very tough. Like I said, I couldn't even get a driver's license. I couldn't work. I couldn't go to school. It was, you're setting me up for failure, and then expecting me to swim. And I did my best to swim. Like I said, worked odd jobs. Um, I learned to write, taught myself how to write. I'm a writer now. Um, Taught myself how to do that. Worked internships at different magazines, and I eventually did enroll in a very expensive 6-month writing program. And because I was an international student, believe it or not, even though I'm British, it cost me upwards of 10 grand for 6 months.
Wow,
So
so you're on like international student rates then.
yeah, so a few years into Canada, I got no money, no paperwork. I couldn't do anything. My hands were tied. So yeah, it was a tough time for me. It was only when I finally got my landed immigrant, uh, the what do you call it, PR
Green
card.
card, right?
Yeah, sort of.
Similar
Yeah,
thing, yeah.
PR card. Like I
Oh,
finally could.
permanent residency, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I finally could get about and do things. But I always felt like I was behind everyone else, so I had to do some catching up. At the same time, I learned to enjoy every moment, and not to feel sorry for myself. I learned to just embrace and enjoy my life, and almost have like a second childhood. So I feel like you're my therapist right now.
Yeah, I'll invoice you later, don't worry. I'll take any coupons that you've got. Got these cheeseburgers, man. Anyway, so yeah, you did touch on writing right now.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on what else? I know you're doing a few things. I see, obviously, I see you on social media here and there. It seems like you're very busy, quite eclectic, variety of things that you do. Tell me what you're doing now. What fills your time?
Yeah, no, I've been working in PR for the last 5 years, public relations. So doing stuff like this, interviewing clients who want to sort of take the next step and be a celeb. I've done that for the last 5 years. So writing, interviewing, podcast hosting. I'm a teacher. I work at a local college here and teach English. And at the same time, I've just taken a little break because I've been doing it for nonstop for over 10 years, but I'm a football coach. I've got my national license here, which I don't know if it means anything in England, but it's kind of a big deal here to have your Canadian national license. So I work with the Vancouver Whitecaps, the biggest team in British Columbia, and I've done that for 6 years. Right now, though, I'm looking to transition, potentially work abroad in my field of journalism or public relations. So we'll see what happens. I might have to wait a little bit for that, but that's sort of the next step. So sort of transition mode right now.
So a bit like what we with your identity. They're three or four very different fields. Is there any you
Mm.
think you'll gravitate more towards going forward, or are you happy to keep juggling between them and enjoying the fruits of all the labour? What your thoughts on that?
No, definitely journalism, news media, public relations. That's the avenue I'd like to continue. I've been doing it for a long time. I enjoy it. I'm good at it, and
More cheddar,
yeah, exactly. But I enjoy teaching. I'm at a great college right now. Great environment. The students are fantastic. The work environment is very relaxed, so I do enjoy that. Football coaching, don't enjoy it as much anymore. It's very toxic. It's not an environment I enjoy being in. There's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of bad business involved. So I like to stay as far away from that as possible.
why do you think that is? Obviously, just keeping it brief. Why do you think that's happened? Because it's a game. Just let them play. Do you think it's because people see it as a commercial venture a bit much now, or what?
Well,
Without
we're
putting
in a
words
very
into your mouth.
Yeah, we're in a very capitalist environment. It's as you may remember, me and you worked at the Newcastle United Academy as teenagers, and
Oh, work experience.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, back in the
and
day,
it's
yeah.
yeah, and There, it's about football. It's simply about learning to play football. Here, it's a business. It's capitalism. It's pay to play. The parents feel like they need to get involved. The clubs bend over for the parents. The kids end up, becoming a sort of what do you call it? Like a
Proxy for the
the
parents, maybe.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what the
It's like
kids say,
living vicariously through them, to a certain
yeah,
extent. Again,
there's-
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I've obviously, I used to coach
you've done
football
it.
as well, and I see that a lot. Yeah, parents are living
Yeah.
through them. So yeah, sorry, continue, please.
Well, you did it in the US as well, so I'd imagine you saw
Yeah,
similar.
well, that's next level there with the whole commercialization, and I understand that they needed to develop it probably fast. And the US, if they're not great at anything else, it's marketing and
Yeah.
capitalism. So from where they would have been in the 90s, they brought in MLS. That's obviously boomed since. It's not probably where they
Mhm.
want it to be, but on the world stage, it's tenfold where it was. And obviously that's down to money and buying the good facilities or the best available, and investing in it, investing in youth, and the facilities there are second to none for kids. I've not seen any in Europe. I obviously haven't been coaching around the rest of Europe, Germany, Spain, Netherlands. That's probably more comparable, but the US, they really pushed the boat out. So yeah, I can see that. And obviously it's not a country that doesn't like to see a return on investment. So I'm assuming Canada, it's always viewed as kind of US's little cousin. So
Yeah.
maybe that's where they're at now. They're playing catch up with that in that respect. So again, this is the third eye. So you fill in the blanks.
No, 100% spot on. You're spot on, and, because of that, you don't get the best of the coaches because they always feel like they're getting their hands tied, and especially me, and I think having done this long enough, I'm at a point in my, career and life where I can tell people, "I don't need to listen to your bullshit anymore, and I don't need to be involved in any politics, so all the best, you enjoy, and you guys miss me." And they do, people ask me all the time, "Can you come coach today? Can you do this?" And the only thing dragging me there is the money. The money is good because I've, worked my way up the ladder. So just like I'm sure it's the same with yourself as well. Plus, we've got that experience of coming from a football saturated country. But no, there's a lot of delusion here as well. The word pro gets bandied about, and it's ridiculous to hear because it's just madness. No one's going pro. From this
Yeah.
conference. Nobody. Not for any respectable team. And yes, one Alfonso Davies.
Yeah, it's kind of it's not you're not getting your, I'd say, ROI off that one player.
Yeah.
Um anyway, so going back to the jobs that you've got, obviously of the three, you talked about your qualifications in football to get that. What about the other jobs, the teaching and the PR? Was there any special training or qualifications that helped you get to where you are with them, or was it just by virtue of networking and putting your name around? What was the process?
I taught myself how to write a long time ago. Um, I started interning for various magazines, working my way up, um, and then just, finding the right, having the right look, like I worked for the biggest news organization in Latin America, in Ecuador. That was huge. Good money, good work environment. Um, massive organization. So I was very fortunate to do that. I was very fortunate to be in a public relations organization that was constantly looking to grow and provided a lot of great opportunities um, as well. But it was just about me teaching myself. I taught myself how to write. I taught myself how to interview. I had to stumble before I walked. With regards to teaching, I think I took a 4 month intensive, um, on how to teach English, and just again um, constantly trying to learn and come up with new ideas and new methodologies when I'm in there. But you know, sometimes I got called in the other day, and I think they called me at 8:30, and the class was at 9, and it's an hour and a half drive, and so I'm going in late. There's nothing prepped for me, and I'm just having to swim. You just have to swim, and I've gotten used to swimming a lot through the years. So I'm pretty versatile.
So you've got strong legs then,
Yeah.
good lungs. Nice. So yeah, we're going to be. It sounds like we're going back and forth on a few things, but such
Mhm.
is life. So you've talked about a little bit about your process there. A lot of people who might listen in the future might be, some young people looking for some inspiration or for ideas. I want you to explain to somebody who's listened, please, the process from getting from A to B or from the start to where you're at now. Can you list all of the jobs that you've had in your life, please? Just briefly, how many jobs have you had and what were they? Just go through maybe 10 of them.
I've worked in retail for 10 years, so various sports shops, various clothes shops. I've worked in bars and restaurants. Um, I've worked for newspapers and magazines. I've worked in schools. I've worked on football pitches. I was part of a company that would drive drunk people home. It was called Soberized. um, Jesus, what else? I've had hundreds of jobs, mate. I don't even remember all of them. I acted, and I still do. I've made movies, so filmmaker, short films, acting. Um, yeah, I think that sort of sums it up. I'm trying to think of other odd jobs I did. Construction.
My point is, for anybody who might get something out of this, that nothing's linear. Not many people in
Mhm.
this world have got exactly what they want from the get-go. There seems to
Mhm.
be an issue with gratification. People always
Mhm.
want instant gratification. The days of delayed gratification, it seems to be a lost art. So it's important for people to know, again, don't harp on that, taking your time and learning from all of these. I'm sure you've learned a lot of things. I've had a load of shit jobs, so many, and I wouldn't change any of them for anything. I think
Mhm.
you learn so much. I think one of the things you learn is what you don't want to do and how you don't want your life to go. So for anybody
Yeah.
who's listening, that's something I know you've done a lot of things, me too. So I know that's something we have in common. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not in the perfect place, but I'm glad I had those experiences to call on. So for anybody who thinks they're in a shit position, it's not linear. You can move on. It's all over the place, and you'll learn a lot from it.
Learn to live in the present, learn to pivot, learn to enjoy pivoting as well. You know, it's funny. I hope I'm not going to waffle on here, but I saw a coffee shop open in the middle of where I live. I live on a top of a mountain, and there's a beach nearby. And I told the owner, what a great idea this is. I would love to do something like this. And if you look back, I would never have thought, oh, I'd love to own a coffee shop or something. But now I look at it and go, I wish I'd done that. Or I wish I could go somewhere and just open up a little coffee shop or something. So it's, but if you asked me 15, 20 years ago, would you like to do that? I'd be like, are you mad? I'd hate to do something like that. But, it's just, yeah, don't discount anything. Embrace all experiences, embrace the adventure of life, and learn to live in chapters. That's what I do. I always call them little chapters of life.
Sure. Yeah, there's always going to be an opportunity cost, no matter what you do. I think that's the
Mhm,
takeaway from here. So I'm going to take you back a little while. So if you look back on your youth, did you have any specific ambitions when you were young? Think about maybe being a teenager when you don't know what's going on. Was there any goals
mhm.
you had from a young age?
I always wanted to live in the US, so I suppose I achieved my
So
dream of,
close, so
yeah,
close.
yeah. I was, I got to achieve my vision of living in North America. And I'm only a stone's throw away from the US. I've traveled up and down the US. by train. I love traveling by train. So I've traveled up and down the West Coast, East Coast. Like I said, I've got family in Dallas, Texas. Um, we always growing up, we always saw, North America is the big wide world. And here we are 20 years later, and we're here. So yeah, that was definitely one of my goals. And maybe be involved in the film or music industry, and I've had the privilege of doing both. Another one of my jobs, actually, I work in the music industry right now as well with my sister. So it's not something that's permanent, but it's a pretty cool gig.
Awesome. So you're getting to tick off every kind of career there, right?
Yeah, more jobs than office runner.
So what would have stopped you from, realizing really what you wanted to do when you're younger? What was the main hurdle to that, would you say?
I don't know. You just think that the other side of the world is this big, big wide world, and it's going to be impossible to go there. And sometimes it's as easy as what we did, just hopping on a plane and going and figuring it out. And it's not ideal. My advice to anybody traveling is do the appropriate planning before you go anywhere. Um, but you know, there's nothing wrong with spontaneity as well, and it's easier than you think.
So a
So
bit of measured spontaneity then,
yeah,
if that's a
yeah,
thing.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, due diligence and then get in the plane. So you talked about Ecuador. Would you like to tell me a little bit about that? I know you were there for 1 year. Was it a year? Was it a
yeah,
little bit longer? Less? Yeah. So tell me
yeah.
about that. What did you do? What made you go there? Why Ecuador? The floor is yours.
It's crazy. You just asked when you're younger, where would you think about going? I would never have thought, 20 years later, I'm going to live in Ecuador. So again, crazy, but I'm glad I did. What a beautiful place. You've traveled all over South America, so you're blessed. It's truly a magical place. Um, it fits with my persona a little bit. I'm very spontaneous. I'm very laid back and easygoing, and I like being in those type of environments. I
Sorry,
moved to
just
Ecuador.
interject. When we grew up, your dad had a car called the Reggae Van. So I think that tells us what kind of person or what kind of stock. Sorry, please continue. Just to give some narrative there.
Oh my God, I remember that fun.
So yeah,
But
tell me more about Ecuador then.
yeah,
So you said you're quite a relaxed person. It suits your kind of personality, yeah?
yeah. I met a girl from Ecuador, half Canadian, half Ecuadorian. She went back to live there. Obviously, in order to progress the relationship at the time, it would mean one of us would have to jump, and that being me. I found a really cool job there, arguably my favorite or second favorite job ever, and that's working for a major news organization. Um, And so, I lived the life. I lived like a king. I played football there. I helped out the university team as a coach. I played football regularly. I got to travel, throughout the country, see the coast. Um, and obviously, because I had a girlfriend, I was very, very busy every single day. So it really was magical. It's like nothing else on earth. I was only there, yeah, a little bit less than a year because as our good old friends, the US, decided to impose some sanctions on Venezuela, and our organization was Venezuelan, so it was very tough to be paid on a regular basis. It was always late. And there came a time where I just thought it wasn't worth it anymore. And my intuition was right because as soon as I left, the company went out of business. And it's such a shame because it was the biggest news organization in that hemisphere. So, disappointing. And I know there's some danger, there's problems with danger, with crime and stuff there. So yeah, it's a shame. But I'm sure you've been back to South America more recently than I have, so you would know more than me.
Yeah, it's really dangerous, but it's kind of worth it to a certain extent. As long as you don't put
Mhm.
yourself in silly situations, you're usually fine, and the squeeze is worth the juice, or the juice is worth the squeeze, should I say?
Yeah, yeah.
Without intruding too much, was the money something that was a big factor in you taking those jobs, or was that not really much of a consideration, obviously, to a certain extent.
The money was fantastic. I ain't gonna lie, the money was fantastic. But the reason I moved there, and this person can deny it till the cows come home, but the reason I moved there was because of the girl.
That was
And
the
that was
point I was going to make.
yeah.
The importance of chasing money. Yeah, we all know money's important, but during you regaling the whole experience, you didn't mention money once. Obviously, that probably allowed you to do those things. However,
Mhm,
I know, and you know, you don't need a lot to see Ecuador and its beauty, you know. Going to the
mhm.
mountain for the day, or the lake or the river or the ocean. You can get like a ceviche on the beach for like $4 or something. Now, beer on the beach for $1 and then smoke something on the beach for whatever. So it doesn't cost a
You
lot.
get
Is what I'm saying. It's
yeah.
not about the money for me anyway. So it was just a bonus to you that you got paid well. Would you agree? Or
It allowed me to live like a king, and like you said, even though I lived like a king, yes, I could go and spend $80 on sushi with the girl, and, but, there's nothing stopping us from, getting a $2 almuerzo, sopa de pollo,
menú del
carne.
día.
Yeah, you could go get all the nice healthy, au naturel stuff for $2, $2 to $3, and really save your money. But my job allowed me to live like a king, to spend money on nice clothes and stuff for the house and traveling and whatnot. Um, so that was a huge bonus. But yeah, no, I moved there because I met a girl and I wanted to be closer to her. And that's it.
So aside from the girl in question and the money, what else
Mm.
did you gain from going there? Well, could you put that into a couple of sentences?
Simple life, whether it's going and picking fruit or whether it's buying fruit from some young 6-year-old kid who's inside a little tiny store and he's working with his parents, and you just see the innocence of everything and you see the simplicity of things and you're like, you know what, man, I'd love to do that. Forget working in a major news organization. I'd love to go and sell, uh, be a fruit vendor on the street because it brings us back to our sort of like I guess inner being or whatever. Where here Europe and these capitalist places like North America, we're constantly chasing um, you know something that might not be attainable. We're constantly chasing growth because we want to compete with people, because we want to be, show we're the best. We want to make the most money. We want to flex the most, etc. And going to these places just humbles you and brings you back down to reality. And
So you gained a lot of humility, then you might say.
yeah, absolutely. I always made sure, when I was buying fruit from the little kid, I was like, this money's for you. Don't give it to your mom. I already paid your mom. This is for you. Like, uh, y- as a
Propina.
thank you. Yeah, as a thank you. As a listen, I'm not a gringo here. I'm not here to take advantage of what you have. I'm here to enjoy my life and give back to this community and be part of the community. And
Well,
yeah, a
there
lot.
was a time where you were actually kind of aligned with that kid. He'd sell fruit, you'd sell sandwiches for your dad, and I did for a little stint too. So we were those
Yeah,
kids working for your father, selling things to people. But I don't even think we were 16. So yeah, that cash in hand, Reza.
yeah. The old illegal stuff. Yeah, no, it was. You, me,
Townhouse, shout out.
how not if you remember me, you worked for my dad, and you know what? You're right. It taught us humility, and it taught us hard work and work, work ethic from a young age. And now guys like me and you are not afraid to go in and do the graft.
I didn't say I
You
liked
know,
it, but yeah, I
for sure.
understand it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But at least we have that. We have what a lot of people in this generation in North America don't have. You
What
know,
would that be? Work ethic, you think, or
yeah, work ethic. A lot of
okay,
people here are
your words, not
privileged.
mine.
Yeah, they're very privileged. It's different. There's a lot of entrepreneurs from a young age here,
Yeah.
so they're learning to do that. Whereas we went in and just rolled our sleeves up and did the graft, but it molded us to be tougher as well.
I think in the US, like you said about the entrepreneurship, yeah, I think they see more of the high ticket items and they get in there
Mm,
earlier. That's a big difference. Whereas kind of in the trenches, the UK culture is not so supportive. Like
mhm,
what's that? There's a theory. Is it tall poppy or something like that? I can't remember what the. I'm probably butchering this, but it's the whichever flower, the poppy or the sunflower that gets the sun, it gets chopped down more. So the one
mhm,
that tries to achieve more gets chopped down. That would be more with the attitude of people around them. In the
mm,
UK, if you look like you're trying to study, you're trying to get ahead, oh, you apple polisher, you swat, all that stuff.
yeah,
Whereas in the US, I think they're more supportive. I've lived in East Asia. Wow, it's so competitive there, and obviously
yeah.
that mirrors the society and the achievement. So I think you did touch on that, but yeah, that might be why they start off at a higher level because they're so much more supportive around their friend groups and stuff. It's not such a neg culture, you might call it. So
It's
going
funny.
back to sorry,
Yeah.
continue.
I was just gonna say it's funny, yeah, because I was seen by my friends, in the music college that I went to in England as the wealthier lad. I didn't consider myself wealthy, especially compared to the likes of yourself and all the guys I went to high school with. But because I had an extra dishwasher, well, my family had 2 dishwashers or whatever it was in the garden, I was seen as upper class. And it's sort of like you wanna downplay that side of you. Whereas it's complete opposite North America, you never wanna put yourself down. You kinda wanna, "Yeah, I've got the biggest house, I've got the best car," type thing, and you constantly competing with people.
Yeah, agree. So going back to Ecuador, had you not made that change and continued doing that, what do you think you'd been doing now? Obviously, you did go back to Canada, but do you think it would have been the same trajectory, or do you think that put you on a different route? How was that
Definitely
as
put me on a
an
different
impact in your life?
Definitely put me on a different route because it wasn't easy. You go through I got myself a house, but because I literally just moved in, there was ants. When you go to these hot countries, there's ants all over the house, and you don't get rid of them in 5 minutes. They'll take a day or two to get rid of, and in the middle of the night, there's no stores open to get ant killer. You got to find the source as well. So there's times, I'm lying on a bed of ants trying to get to sleep. So you learn to persevere. It's not all magical. I had to get to a certain level before I started making money there and started living like a king. And it was very tough at first, but you learn to persevere. And I tried to be the same. Yeah, I tried to be the same as I was in Ecuador. I did try to be Asian mode, where from a mindset perspective when I came back, but you do get kind of immersed back in the old rat race again. Um, and for a guy like me, it's not ideal. So eh, I think the best thing to have done is to have kept traveling. Like we said, I did land a fantastic job for 5 years working in public relations. So if I hadn't have came back here, I don't think I would have found that, and I had some amazing experiences here because of that. My social status grew as well. So at one point I was sort of classed as an influencer. I wouldn't class myself as an influencer, but I was sort of in that category, and it did help me network a lot here. And at one time, I did feel like I'd finally made it in Vancouver, and I was at the top of the ladder. I had
Sorry,
a look.
what helped you? Was that your experience in Ecuador, or like were you hanging around with more Latinos or something, or what was it about it that gave you that status? Do you think?
This was Vancouver, and this was the simply the job I had. The job I had interviewing celebrities. You get a name for yourself with someone who is very good at their job, and because of that, you can kind of flex on it a little bit. Your social standing increases on social media, Instagram, you know. mainly Instagram, and because I was recognized, I was even recognized in the street um, here. So I did feel like at one
Was it
point
by
in
the
my life,
police? Sorry,
ah,
continue.
um, and yeah, I felt like I'd finally made it, and it's something I'd always wanted to do when I came here, and I never thought I would. And I had the fancy apartment with the rooftop pool that was stupidly expensive. And then I sort of thought I had everything going for me, but at the same time, I think it's stupid to think like that as well, because it's all an illusion. Um, you know what I mean? And but at the time, I embraced it and I enjoyed it. So I'm really glad for that experience. Um, I wouldn't say I sort of immersed in any kind of social media these days. I really don't care too much for it. I just use it to communicate with friends like yourself, being able to talk with you know, across the country and stuff like that. But yeah, if I hadn't have came back, I wouldn't have achieved that. So I'm glad. I'm glad I did that. But like I said, I'm sort of getting that travel itch again, that travel bug, and I'd love to. I'd love to see the world like you have, and gain different perspectives and be immersed in different cultures, and sort of embrace my whole self. There's which I can't embrace my whole self here because I'm completely different from a lot of people. People say almost to a fault that I'm spontaneous, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But to the guy working 9 to 5, that there is a problem. So it's tough to socialize when you have
Well,
that mindset.
you're a long time dead, hopefully. So you've got a lot of time ahead of you. So all I'd say is go for it. Be spontaneous again. Get back to it. So just moving on from that, obviously migrating with your family, relocating so far away. It required a lot of decision making from them. So other than that, have they had much of a bearing on your decision making in your life, or has it been more autonomous from you, or what's that process been like, or that influence?
Um, I have to be grateful that we traveled a lot, especially as a kid. I've been all over Europe. I probably traveled more as a kid than anybody I grew up with. Even yourself. It was I think you started to travel a bit more as you graduate after you graduated high school, but between the ages of 3, so no, even before that, in the ages of 2 to 19, I'd been to pretty much every country in Europe. I'd been to Asia. Um, so I'm forever grateful for uh, being to those countries, and just really being immersed in those cultures. And at one point, I did live in Spain, and that was like nothing else. I really grew up in Spain because I was a 10-year-old being thrust into like the nightlife where my dad worked, and so it was very alien at times, very dangerous. But
Sorry, if anybody
you
doesn't know,
know,
your dad was an erotic stripper. Uh, Sorry, carry on.
yeah, my dad, he had a multitude of restaurants and bars across the world, and one time he had one in Spain, and it wasn't in the most safest environment, but again, it toughened you up, and so I'm grateful for those experiences. But at the same time, no, what my parents do don't sort of shape what I do. I feel like I'm complete opposite.
So they haven't influenced you too much on a certain pathway, or have they just left you to your own devices?
I would say they've just kind of left me to it, and it's probably for the best. I like being kind of I like having that autonomy.
Cool. So, on the same vein, on your dad, as I said, I know he was born and raised in Iran, but he left obviously a long time ago. There's a phrase I've heard over the years, migrant mentality.
Mhm,
So my recollections of him, as you've already alluded to, very hardworking, very diligent, constantly hustling, like in a positive way.
mhm.
Apart from the dancing, maybe. Uh, so he's always busy, focusing on providing for you and the family. So, first of all, would you agree with that sentiment about migrant mentality? As I said, it's not a negative thing if anybody thinks that it is. Come from me anyway. So, would you agree with that phrase, or do you think there's something to that, or is it just a kind of lazy assumption by people?
No, 100% spot on. Migrant mentality, at least in my dad's era. You come here, you work hard, you learn to integrate in the system, you know. It's very different from North America. In England, when you sort of emigrate there from the Middle East, you try to, you know, especially Newcastle, you try to adopt the Geordie accent, you try to adopt the mannerisms. You know, you're an outsider looking in. In where I am now in Vancouver, it's a complete opposite. People come here, it's almost like a melting pot, like the US. Um, we lose our culture and identity a little bit because of it. It's always been a problem since I moved here. You know, what's been what's the identity of Vancouver? What's the Canadian identity? And nobody really knows. So the migrant mentality, you know, in my dad's era, I think is the best one. And
So
like you
how
said,
would you how would you characterize that then, if you had to put a finer point on it?
like
What
the
does that
mentality.
mean? Yeah, what is it? What is a migrant mentality if you had to put it in a kind of a chart or a bubble?
Um, good, solid work ethic, learning to integrate in whatever culture you're in, learning to adopt the values, and also bringing something new to uh, the economy as well. And my dad worked hard. He made a lot of money for other people. You know, he gave a lot of people jobs, and at the same time, he made himself a lot of money. And but it was all hard work. And like you said, he moved to Scotland originally. He moved to Edinburgh when he was 17. So my dad, as it moved out of his home country as a kid. But a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people thought, you know, I was this foreign guy in high school or whatever. When my dad, as a teenager, had moved to Scotland and then moved to England. So he grew up. He grew up in Britain, you know, and yeah, in high school, as you know, a lot of people I think thought I was this kid that just jumped off a boat or something, and
I was
like,
just
wait a minute,
impressed that you were 7 and you had a mustache. I couldn't believe it. I was intrigued.
that's not my that's not my fault, man. You wouldn't let me shave it. I hated
I
that
still
fucking
can't grow that level now. I'm still in your wake, my friend. So talking about the traits, do you think that's a trait that you personally have taken on board, or do you think that's
thing.
something that's born from a struggle of migration? What's he feeling about that?
That's a great question, and perhaps both. But in terms of my experience, like I said earlier, I learned that work ethic from my dad. You know, working in his coffee shops from a young age, it wasn't safe. It was a dangerous environment. We had people come in with knives. We had violence. You had guys coming in drunk, on drugs, or whatever, looking to start stuff. And I'm a 14-year-old kid, and most 14-year-old kids are sitting at home, you know, in Newcastle watching the football, and here I am at 4 a.m. working in my dad's bar and coffee shop. So yeah, you learn to tough it out. You learn good values. I've always worked wherever I've been. I'm proud to say that I've worked so many jobs. I'm proud to say that I've pivoted in so many industries and been able to adapt. So yes, at the same time, like you said, is that sort of a product of migrant culture? I think in Europe, yes, absolutely. I think migrants here in North America are completely different. I I don't think all of them are hardworking. Some of them are very lazy, um, and some of them do get by and are fortunate to have the right breaks. And you know what? God bless them that they've got the right breaks, because I would not want anyone to struggle like I did for 3 years, or you know, anyone else. But yeah, there's a lot of people that come here and sort of finesse their way through life, and I prefer the old fashioned roll your sleeves up and do the work and learn to integrate.
Yeah, these thoughts come from Sarshar Hosseinnia, a migrant himself, not from me, a white British man. So yeah, just putting that out there if anybody complains about this racist podcast.
Oh,
So
I'll get abused. I'll post this and people are like, you're a white privileged. I'm like, oh, I'm white now, am I?
you're
Okay.
from Sunderland, you've suffered. You've got to tell them that. So moving on from that, what about you? So we talked about that trait by proxy, you might call it. And what about you?
Mm,
What other traits would you say you excel in or
I'm
prevalent in
honest.
you?
I'm honest to a T. I guess if people want to say that's a flaw, then they can. They can say whatever they want. I don't care. I'm honest. I'm hardworking. I'm adaptable in any situation, and I'm kind. And I look to help others. You know, I get joy from helping others succeed. I've done that with teaching. I've done that with football coaching, with mentoring. You know, as a writer, building teams, writing teams, and then helping them become better writers and go on to do other things. And that's sort of ingrained in my family as well. My parents are always like that. They like to help others. And so, yeah, I'm um, very proud of that. And yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, so very good. So getting back to traveling, what would you say has
Mhm.
been the most impactful trip you've been on, and why? What was it about it that was so special?
Ooh, uh, like I said, I was honored to travel the world from a very young age. Some of it I don't remember because I was very young. I don't remember ever going to Italy, but I did. um, I lived in Spain, so you grew up quickly there in that environment. Um, but I would probably have to say, um, I'd have to say Ecuador because it's the most recent. It had the most impact on my life. It's the one with the most memories that I can remember. Um, it was magical, and it made me yearn to go see other parts of the world, um, you know, and other parts of South America as well. And so yes, that would have to be the most impactful one.
So on a little bit of a segue there, or tangent, what's your top 5 places that you would like to spend time in the world? If you had to just give a quick 5 points.
I would like to go to Colombia, to the Caribbean. Um, I'd like to go to Italy. Um, two other places. Geez, you put me on the spot. Midwest USA and stay there for a prolonged period.
Chi-town.
Um, yeah. So those are the 4, and then, a 5th one would be off grid somewhere, man, somewhere that you've probably been, on some island in the middle of nowhere.
Been to many of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many. You want to narrow it down? It's probably
Uh,
close to 1 million.
um, um, somewhere near I guess near the Atlantic Ocean. You know what? Let's just forget that.
Sao Tome.
Mediterranean. I'd love to go to the
Med.
Mediterranean.
Lovely.
Yeah.
What skills have you learnt along the way that you feel have helped you with your current role or your progress that you've made? What life
Uh,
skills maybe that might be an easier one.
yeah. And being empathetic to people's needs. Um, you know, so I'm able to mentor them and understand them um, in a better way. Patience. You need a lot of patience when you're working with other humans. Being adaptable, for sure, and being able to pivot on the fly. Um, and learning to sort of be a good leader by stepping up and leading by example. You know, if you want someone to do something, you've got to go and do it first. And so really, really stepping up for other people, so that they can step up for you as well.
I like that you've put the word pivot in at least 3 times now. That's very on brand. This podcast is called Pivotation. So thank you very much. I'll clip all of that. That'll help. You might see that sprinkled around a bit. I should try and get everybody else to buy into that. Next one. If you had to start again tomorrow, what would you do first? What would be your first um, action plan or port of call? What would you do? How would you approach it?
I would, I'd go live somewhere hot. Um, yeah, first things first. So go live somewhere hot, and learn to learn to take more of a chance on myself and my abilities.
Excellent. So including or excluding your stint in Ecuador, what's been your favorite period of your life? When do you say you were happiest?
When I was in university in Canada, I did get to travel as well, but I did live each day, to quote a cliche, live each day like it was my last. I had a great time in university, and I did travel. I studied in Mexico as well. So I got to travel all over Mexico, Guadalajara, Guanajuato, Tlaquepaque, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Para Navidad. Um, you know, so that was a fantastic period of my life.
And
Um,
when you're drinking Four Locos at nighttime, that really could be your last day on Earth. So nice, you made it through. If anybody doesn't know what Four Loco is, it just says alcohol on the can, and it's what 17% or something, and a lot of people died from it. So yeah, you made the cut. Good job.
Mate,
And in Mexico,
have you ever drank something called Puntas?
Puntas, is it in Mexico or US?
It's in Ecuador. It's punch. I went
Oh,
to a work event, and there's
I don't
this
think
big
so.
bowl, and I'm just drinking this Puntas. Bro, I died for a week. I felt like there was acid building in my stomach. I didn't get sick. I didn't throw up, but I felt like my insides were getting eaten. So don't ever drink Puntas, please.
I'll bear that in mind. Yeah, thanks. What else? What's one question that people should ask themselves more or more often?
Um, Great question. I think that is, who are you and what do you stand for? Two questions.
Perfect. Yeah, keep it sweet. If someone was to make a movie about you, who would you like to play you in this feature?
A young Johnny Depp.
You're the second person who said Johnny Depp. Wow. And I've only asked it twice, so he's 2-2. Good job. In reality, who do you think would play you? Like, come on, be a bit pragmatic. What you saying? A
Like in
young,
terms of like one of my
I,
mates or
I
something,
see
or
a
like,
young Tamer Hassan, maybe.
oh, that'd be
Football
cool.
Factory, slimmed down
He's
version, maybe. So again, you find your own though.
well, Tamai, he's a hard guy though. He's a tough guy. I would never consider myself a tough guy. So I'm honored that you've
He's an
chosen
actor
Tamai
though.
Hassan. Okay, Danny Dyer without the accent.
Danny Dyer, okay. Or with the accent,
Danny-
it's his USP, I'd argue. So what's something that this might be about your puntas? What's something you said never again to, and then you've absolutely done it again? What's something that you've gone back on your word?
Um, Funny that you said that. Coachella. I love Coachella, but the dust killed me when I was there. And guess what? I'm going there again next week, so I have to figure out a solution for that.
Is there not a load of masks from the COVID that can help? I know they did so
Uh,
well in stopping the spreading. Yeah. All right, maybe that can help out. You can go and find a dispensary somewhere. All right, so
you,
almost there. So
you're right. You're spot on. Hopefully, I've got some one of those goofy masks from somewhere that does the business.
some
'Cause I'm not looking forward to it
KN90s,
though.
whatever they're called.
Yeah. Wow.
Funniest or most memorable thing that's happened to you while traveling? Give me your top moment if you can delve deep.
Okay. I tell stories, so just hang on here. Okay. I went out one night without my girlfriend, and I went out with a workmate, and he was sort of a nerdy guy. He's like, "Listen, let's just come over. I'll cook for you. We'll watch basketball." Well, all right, whatever. I was happy just to do that, keep it easy, chill night out. I took my British friend with me, half British, half Bolivian, and he loved to party a little bit. And he's like, "Let's go out, let's go out, let's go out." And the lad's like, "No, not really. Let's just watch basketball." Anyways, I coerced the guy into going out. So we went out, but this guy wasn't used to going out. So he's out of control, and now I'm having to look after him. And there's a bus to the Galapagos Island in Ecuador. And I said to my mate, my British Bolivian mate, "Hey, why don't we go hop on it? He's like, yeah, let me go get my passport. I'll be back in half an hour." Well, I'm having to babysit my work colleague. So he goes off, he comes back, I'm gone. There was a car full of Irish girls that was going to a club. He hopped in. I hopped in as well to babysit, and also because I was half cut as well. We ended up in a club. My mate got pissed at us, but he got over it eventually. He came back and there was nobody there. We ended up in a club, and I ended up beating up this guy because he was out of order
Did
in
you
the
go
club.
to? I was waiting for the hook there. You went to Galapagos then. You didn't make it.
Didn't go to Galapagos, went to some dodgy club, and this lad was out of order. He slapped the bouncer or whatever. The bouncer's looking for him. I was talking to a girl. He picked me up, and I'd had enough, and I just decked him in the
Oh,
club.
you
And
channeled your inner Tamer Hassan there. Johnny
yeah,
Depp would never deck somebody who's too pretty for that.
and neither would Danny.
he'd write about it or do a documentary about it.
Yeah,
Would you consider yourself happy?
that's a great question. Oh my God, I wish, brother. I wish one day I'm happy, but I've never been happy. Not to fucking depress you, but
So
uh,
what would define that for you then? What do you think would encapsulate happiness for you?
I
Put
think it's
a label
yeah.
on it.
I think being content would probably make me happy. If I was just content with everything, content with where I'm at in life, content with if you have a partner, content with your day-to-day life, I think that would probably make me happy.
All right, and
But
final question. If you could go back and do it all again and change some things, would you? Or are you happy how things have worked out?
yes, I would definitely try to change some things.
What would they be?
I think I would have traveled a little bit more, um, and I would have taken more risks.
I think you've answered the question on how you can be happy then, so you know what to do. I don't have to tell you. All right, mate, I think I've taken enough of your time for one day. Thanks so much for joining me and entertaining this huge audience I've got with your tales. I really appreciate it. If there's anything you'd like to plug, any services, any social media, anything, the floor is yours. You can give your shout outs or forever hold your peace.
I'm gonna forever hold my peace.
Okay then. Well, thanks again. Hopefully we'll catch up again before too long. Good luck with everything. Good luck with being happy. I'm sure it's just around the corner. And inshallah. And I'll see you next time.
God bless you guys. I love what you're doing, and I'm glad you're doing it. And yeah, hopefully we get to talk soon.
Yeehaw, brother.
Ciao, ciao.
Peace out. Thanks everyone or anyone for sticking around and listening all the way through. I really do appreciate your time. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support the podcast is simply by following, subscribing and sharing it with anyone you think would get value from it. You can also find me on all of the usual socials, as well as those of today's guest if they want you poking around in their business. I'll leave all the links in the show notes, so feel free to head there and take a closer look at my top tier content. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can do that through my Buy Me a Coffee link. It genuinely helps me keep creating these incredible episodes and improve as we go along. And finally, if you're interested in working with me more directly, I also offer a travel consulting service, whether that's guidance, strategy, or help with selecting your pivot towards your new chapter. You can book a session through the link in the description. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you on the next one.